Hey guys, today's story is about a Dark Heresy game.
So, a little bit of setup. Dark Heresy is a grimdark tabletop setting set in the Warhammer 40k universe. And combat is dangerous. Social encounters are also dangerous. And researching the mysteries of the world can result in your character mutating into a monster, or worse. But if you have a group with the right mindset, you can pull some true horror moments and tell some amazing stories. This group for the story, however, was not in the mindset. I knew our GM from a few other campaigns, and he was amazing at world building and getting players invested into his stories. And in addition to myself, we had a group of more newbies, as well as two other people who will be known as Mouth and Blade, which will soon become apparent. In Dark Heresy, it's important to have a diverse party with different skills, and it's usually bad to overly specialize. So everyone could have combat, investigative, and socializing skills to some degree. I created a battle medic, as I've played Dark Heresy in the past, and knew how squishy PCs were. Mouth made a pure charisma character, with no combat skills. He could talk his way into and out of any problem. Blade made a pure combat build, specializing in dodging attacks and melee damage. No social skills, but Blade could hold up in any 1v1 battle, as long as it wasn't some supernatural boss monster. So, the GM set the stage. We were new recruits of the Inquisition, looking to locate and exterminate heresy in a hive planet. We were to be subtle, and have the full resources of the Inquisition at our disposal. We were also given rosettes, which are like badges that let everyone know that you're part of the Inquisition, and are best to only be shown when they absolutely need to have civilians cooperate.
So, in Session 1, we were tasked with locating some gangs that might be smuggling unholy items. We followed the breadcrumbs well enough, and found their base of operations. Mouth was able to get the local arbiters, Space Police, to provide extra muscle, and we all charged in. And we successfully wiped out 90% of the gangers, capturing the rest for interrogation, as well as taking their contraband for investigation. And everyone gave each other high fives as none of us died. What we didn't know, however, was after that session, Mouth and Blade decided to form a secret pact behind all of the other players' backs. Mouth would focus on charisma abilities to manipulate NPCs, and Blade would min-max on combat until he was a war god. They would protect each other, and use their teamwork to screw with the entire game. And here's how they operated. For one, Mouth would run havoc, spreading lies and revealing inquisitorial info to the public, as well as releasing heretical objects. For two, the head of the Inquisition would demote us and force us to run a suicide mission. For three, during said suicide mission, Blade would kill everything that threatened Mouth. For four, Mouth would convince our boss that Blade and T did all of the work during said suicide mission. And five, Mouth and Blade would reap the most rewards, getting better reputation and loot. Or, because this is 40k, they would just be killed off because what they're doing is easily sentenceable by death. But sure, reward bad players' behavior. This kept happening over and over again, and most of the players at this point were getting really annoyed, as any progress we made in the overall story was constantly being ruined by Mouth and Blade creating chaos for the lulz, and bragging to the rest of the table how funny they were. Eventually, everything came to a head when we captured a demon host, and Mouth wanted to release it so that the demon host could work for us. This was a blatantly stupid idea that would result in a TPK. So my character declared that Mouth had clearly been corrupted and needed to be brought back to the Inquisition for examination. And that's when Blade decided to use a surprise round to skewer my character. I was almost one-shot and began fighting a 2v1 battle, thinking that the other PCs would help. But since the other players were new, and they knew how dangerous Blade was, they did nothing to help other than try to talk Blade down from killing my character. But to no avail. My character was killed in front of the other players. But luckily, Dark Heresy has an extra life system, so I came back. But of course, when we tried to tell our boss that Mouth and Blade tried to release a demon host, Mouth talked his way out of it. Or, because it's a demon and this is 40k, also this is the Inquisition, the person that they're talking to would absolutely flip their lid and, order their execution immediately. Also the fact that they killed another Inquisitor. But eventually, Mouth and Blade built up so much corruption that they became demon hosts themselves, which forced them to make new characters. And what did they make, you may ask? Well, another high charisma and high combat set of characters, of course. But what made matters worse was that Mouth number 2 started in a higher position of power than Mouth number 1 had been, and used that higher authority to force our characters into the suicide mission of tracking down and killing the original Mouth and Blade. The GM hinted that there were supposed to be 4 demon hosts, and he hinted that my character was being groomed by the bad guy to be the 4th one. This was a pretty cool hook, so I protested that I shouldn't go anywhere near the original Mouth and Blade, as it's clearly a trap to turn me into a 4th demon host. But Mouth number 2 said I was a traitor for disobeying an order, and with a snap of his fingers, Blade number 2 instantly killed my character with a power sword, using up the last of my lives. And none of the other PCs knew what to do, and just let it happen. What do you do in that situation? I don't know, maybe talk to the DM? Hey, Mr. DM, we don't like the fact that these two are basically ruining the experience for the rest of us. So maybe you could, I don't know, kick them out of the game. Seriously though, it just sounds like nobody in this game has a freaking backbone. Nobody wants to stand up to these two people who were basically just holding them hostage because they refused to actually speak up for themselves. So at this point, I was so sick and tired of Mouth and Blade that I decided to roll up a pure combat character designed specifically to counter both of them. The GM was also sick of our group getting set back, and gave my new character higher authority over Mouth 2. Or you could just remove them from the game because nothing has really been stopping them before. And with this, we were finally able to finish the campaign, despite Mouth number 2 repeatedly trying to throw monkey wrenches into every simple plan that we would come up with. And in the end, Mouth and Blade set back our party so much that we had to end the campaign by nuking the planet from orbit and having our characters die in the blast. Mouth's final words were, "Awesome! We should have just nuked ourselves from the start!" Well guys, I don't know if there's really anything more for me to say on this. I really think that the DM should have just given them an ultimatum to cut the crap or get booted. Or just boot them to begin with. And if this DM was new or just cowardly and didn't want to confront people, the other player should have said something to the DM. But it just seems like everyone here was just too unwilling to actually try to stop them. Yes, they were able to complete the campaign in the end, but did they have fun with it? Because by the sounds of it, no. No, they didn't. But in any case, that's the end of this one. So, as always, stay safe, stay sane, and have a good one.